G'day everyone, it's Calvin here from the Catching Company New Zealand. Doing one of those boring videos where I'm looking at squiggly lines on the screen and numbers, looking at tunes, and to the guys that find this boring, it is boring, because I'd find it boring. But for the guy whose car this is, it's going to be riveting. And for the people wanting to learn this stuff and learn more about their own computers, this is going to be quite interesting. I haven't looked much over this data. I had a quick skim over it, and I don't normally edit these videos, so I try to make sure everything is all the right language is used. Right, we better look at the car for a start, eh? Right. Tyler's S chassis Nissan. It's probably a 240. I'd call it a Sylvia. I sometimes would call it a 180 SX or a 200 SX. Probably a 240 SX, being that Tyler is in the US. I hope he is. Pretty sure he's in the US, not Canada. That's not really important where it is. I'm in New Zealand. He's somewhere else in the world. Now, that's what the car used to look like. I've got another picture. Yeah. Oh, Jace, go away. That was my worker trying to call me at one point. Right, that's what it looks like now. It's got stuff hanging out the bonnet. And if we have a look under the bonnet, Jace, go away. We've got one of those. So we've got a non-VVTi 1UZ with a supercharger. Now, I've been watching just quietly this build of what's going on. It is, and you look, here's the wiring. I suspect he did most of the wiring himself, if not all of it, in the setup, and there was a few things he was struggling with. It's running a little Link Monsoon. And there's been a bit of talk on the internet, and guys, ideally, this would run a sequential injection ECU. Okay, and I'd agree with that. Boosted, I try to recommend sequential injection ECUs. However, you're better with a low spec ECU that's fully loaded up with the sensors and the widebands and all the stuff that you can. Okay, you're better with a low spec ECU and being out racing on the racetrack, doing skids, than dreaming of a high spec ECU, talking about it, sitting on the internet at home watching it. Okay, work within your budget, and it's a great way to learn and improve and get better, and you see the advancements. Someone who does a really nice job of a low spec ECU, I've got a lot more respect for than guys that talk about shit and give these guys a hard time for not running a high spec ECU. Get out there, go racing, spend some time in your car. Right, now let's look at the problem. I am just going to read this email out actually. I think Tyler will be fine with it. Hi Calvin. We were talking on Facebook trying to dial in where my issue is with my car. Seems to drop fuel pressure suddenly, which almost feels like a rev limit, but it really loses power. We thought we were chasing a wiring issue, since one of the logs, according to my tuner, was missing data. But we figured it was just the cable in the ECU was losing connection to my laptop from bouncing around on the passenger seat, which makes sense. And so it sounds like he's getting PC logs, which I can see down here. They are PC logs, which is fantastic because it's got all the data. Okay, it's got extra data. ECU logging is really good. So because he's sending me laptop data, I might just look at the PC logging and see what's in there. But the log I took during my drift run, I had someone hold onto it and seem to gather all the data. Here's my log files from this weekend. One is a straight line pull and the other is a run on the drift track, as well as my tune. He can follow instructions. That's important. So I've got the current tune profile. I've got 2 data logs. That's awesome. Back over here. Right. Now he suggested a fuel pressure problem. Now, when I'm working on a job like this, I've checked the fuel settings. It's on modeled fuel. The settings look about right. Timing settings, probably a little bit more timing than I'd normally expect, but adequate within the ballpark. Fuel table looks relatively normal. I just had a glance. Okay, but we hone in on the suspected problem to start with, and that's a good thing to look at. So I've got, this is I've got a lot of logging headings. I think in here, and I've probably got it zoomed in already. So there is the log file, and I just want to grab this piece. Okay. And here's our oil pressure. Here's our engine speed. Here's our fuel pressure. And we can see there, there, and there. Something's happening. That's the voltage for the fuel pressure. So you can actually check in the sensors and stuff like that. Here's the inlet air temps. They're not too bad. We've got no oil temperature. Now the oil pressure, we're at 5,000, 4.5, and we've got 45.5 and 50 psi. That's okay. And here where stuff's happening, we've got like 20, just over 20 psi at 4,500 RPM. And that's where stuff goes wrong. Here, oh, wrong button. We got 4,300 RPM, 123 kPa. So, and to work it out, it wasn't PSI before, but I find the fuel tables are easier to work in kPa. I can change that to PSI, and I can change this to PSI. So I go up here, we're going to look at options, preferences, units, PSI. Okay. So we've got 4,300 RPM and 17 PSI of oil pressure and 52 PSI of fuel pressure at that point, but we can probably zoom in more on just that area. So I'm just gonna get that area, and I'm using the up button. So now we've got the RPM. Here's going through the RPM. Here's the fuel pressure, and here's the oil pressure. And you can see over here we're getting a drop in fuel pressure down to 25 psi, but we've also got 17 psi of oil pressure. That's a problem. As I said, I only had a quick glance on this yesterday, so I'm trying to eat my breakfast as well. We might just pause while I have this little morsel. And actually what I'm going to do before I start eating, I can eat and do stuff. What I don't have on this laptop, because this is in my lounge at home, is I don't have a limiter. I don't have limits. I just check all these. I've got all these extra screens. I've got triggers. So here's my triggers, yes and yes. So at no point does the triggers, cam and crank sensors fall off. What I don't have is the limits, the rev limits. And if I go over here, configuration, and ECU setup, and I look at the limits. See down here we've got GP limit 1, GP limit 2, RPM limit. There's two limit tables. There's a rev limit table. There's no boost limit. Oh, there it is. It's maybe not even a... There's no boost limit. You can boost to the moon. Probably not wise to not run a boost limit. So we've got an RPM limit, which is gear based, gear and temperature based. We've got a GP limit, which is engine speed and oil pressure. And I noted that real quick. Fantastic to see. Okay, fantastic to see. And look up here at 4,000. We've got 20 psi there, and we jump into there. Look at that. There's a rev limit happening in that zone. I love the way they've set this up. This is cool. This saves engines, okay? But when you've set it up, you've got to be able to find it. I've got a pretty set technique I go through, and I check this stuff real quick. So that's why I picked up on it really, really fast. And we want to look at, we've got a second rev limit, and that's on map pressure and differential fuel pressure. And that's actually almost zeroed out. So you can see all these rev numbers up in the are pretty high. So it just has to get down to next to no pressure down there when it has a cut. That table could probably do with some tweaking and adjustment, okay, to catch these low fuel pressures. And you might find that what's happening is you've got two cuts happening. Let's go back to logging. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a new page. So I'm going to go new page, and we're going to do limits. Now I've done lots of setting up pages. I'm going to set up page at the same time, come back and I'll show you what I've done, and we'll show where that problem is. I'm feeling better. That's breakfast done. So I've set up some logging. Sorry, a logging screen, a logging monitor screen, new page. So what did I put on it? I put oil pressure, and we've got GP RPM limit 1, which was based on oil pressure, I believe. I'm going off of my memory. Differential fuel pressure, and GP RPM limit number 2. I got engine speed. I normally put that at the top. RPM limit and map limit. Now I put quite a lot on that screen, so it's going to be quite small. I could have left some of it off. I'm just doing what I'm doing. Okay, and then we're going to spread it out. We kind of already know the answer, don't we? And I've actually got, what have I got on my normal ones? I've got oil pressure as my normal one. That's the normal screen I looked at, and I could see that shit was going wrong. Okay. I was actually just normally checking air temps and battery voltages. Is battery voltage even on that one? Again, this is my home one, so it's a bit different to my one that I run at the racetrack. At my racetrack, I've got an engine health, so we can see shit was going wrong with oil pressure. Now we go to the limits, and what we're looking for is, are limits coming in? Now, we said there, and there. And we've actually got more problems with oil pressure, and that table could be refined, the safety table. But bang, 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 there is 1, 2, and 3 instances where there's a limit coming in because of oil pressure. So it's not actually a fuel pressure problem. There may be a problem with fuel pressure. And there certainly looks to be a problem in here, but there's no limit for fuel pressure. Fortunately, there is. And hey, we can see there's a problem with fuel pressure. So he was right, and you can see why they were chasing a fuel pressure issue, which it's got. We can see that. But it's actually a bigger problem when you've got no oil pressure. And there's frequent instances. See, it must be pretty close to the limit on that point. 19 psi at it's 2009, nearly 3000 RPM. So that's why those ones haven't come in, because there's 4.6, and we got 21 psi. Must be close to that limit coming in. So that table needs adjusting. I've seen the tables here. Should I adjust the table? I'm actually not going to today. I'm going to put the video out. Tyler's going to see it. He's going to go, oh shit, I've got other problems more than fuel pressure. Actually, maybe what I'll do is I've got I think this is the drift logging. We'll open a log file and we'll see what the other one is. I downloaded it. Now, another thing, guys, that I'm seeing is basic Laptop skills. What's a drift? That's a road. Different picture, but limits coming in. So on both instances, on both lots of logging, we've got some cuts coming in for oil pressure. Now this one's got to be because he's at higher RPM, 6,100. So that's why he's finding that difference. Straight line, he's still got a problem with oil pressure. It's 37. It's just before the cut actually. We're not quite on it. Look, so I'll expand it out. We'll grab the big one. That's when it's cutting. 37 psi. So he's doing 6,000 RPM, got 37 psi. I would want over 50. So in that, and the table's there. The idea's right. The table isn't quite right. So a bit more sorting there of that table. Fix that oil pressure problem. What's that one at the end? There's a big one at the end. And yeah, I do just normally talk to myself sitting here in front of my computer. I'm quite happy with that. 7,000 RPM and 4 psi. What the? 4 psi. You've still got fuel pressure. Now what's happened there? So big drop off in the oil pressure at the end here. And you can see it slumps through. Oh, I can't point to the screen. I've got to zoom it out, don't I? So what's happened? And so when we're looking at this, this is interesting. So I go to that point. If I go to any of these, hopefully I'll have a TPS. So he's backed off the throttle. Okay, so back to limits. Should we put it on the same screen? Let's do that, eh? So we can add stuff in. And sorry, I've got to slow down, eh? I'm getting excited. We'll do this. We go properties. It brings up that again. Add group. Add parameter. And you can search through everything if you're kind of familiar with the software. But I just go TPS. TPS main is what we want. And we push OK. So there we can see he's coming along. He's got the boost on. He's actually backed off the throttle here. So we've still got oil pressure where he's backed off, and then it's come along and it's got to this point and it's had that limit come in. So he's actually got a limit coming in with the throttle totally closed. Right, simple, easy. Yes, Tyler, summary, you've got a fuel pressure problem. Fuel, and I should say it's a fuel supply problem. Okay, sort out your fuel system. I've got a feeling you might have an inline pump. Inline pumps aren't designed to suck, and so it'll be sloshing around the tank and not going down the line like it should to supply that pump. I would surge tank it, which I think I've seen something, might have been someone else, but bigger problem. Baffles in your sump, put a bit more oil in it, put some oil in it. There's something going on with your oiling. Okay, your engine's going to blow up if you don't fix that. Pretty simple, but some of the stuff is in there to save it. If you want to improve that table, I definitely recommend sitting down with your tuner, nutting it out. You're clever enough to do this yourself. I've actually got pretty good faith in you. And do one for the fuel pressure too. Set up a table, whether you do it on differential or actually fuel pressure itself. But set up a safety table for that fuel pressure. You know how to set up and look at your limits. Okay, so you can look at your limits. Set this up on your logging screen. And while we're at it, actually, we'll go logging. We'll go set up logging. This is what the bits that he is logging. It's on the ECU logging. So you've got knock trims, but the knock tables aren't set up. You've got some boost control stuff. There's a map sensor, there's a fuel pressure. Is the oil pressure? There's no oil pressure in the logging. I've done enough for now. I'll set up your logging and your ECU as well, because if you're at the racetrack, that'll save having to have the laptop on the knee. So the laptop has saved you in this case because we've got all the data. Okay, if I was going off the ECU logging, we wouldn't have the oil pressure logged. Okay, so we can do another video if we need to do some setup of that. Okay, but thank you for sending that stuff over. I do appreciate it, and I'm sure you're going to appreciate the video. And we'll talk to you soon. Catch you later.